Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Simon Blagden. I'm very proud to chair the proceedings, and thank you everyone for joining us and giving up the time on this incredible day. We're celebrating two things. We're celebrating, first of all, the launch of Selva's new book, and then secondly, more importantly, we're celebrating Selva's attainment of reaching 50 years. I can't believe you don't look a day over about 49, Selva. I'm being very rude. But without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Selva, the birthday boy, who's going to tell us a little bit about the inspiration behind his book.
Thank you, Simon, and thank you, Jeremy, for finding time to come on the launch, and thank you for writing the foreword in the book. And I also thank you, George and Maurizio, has been incredibly supportive in the process of writing the book and sharing ideas. And thank you for everyone who is here on the call today. Thank you for Darshini, who has been a great support for me throughout writing this book, and especially these actually started writing the book during the pandemic, and it's started on the 22nd of March. In fact, it's a birthday. And thank you for the Regent team who has been behind this, particularly Caroline, Rasika and Claire, who thoroughly supported us, and thank you for Ronald, who introduced Claire to us. So lots of thanks. And then if I just sort of go into why and what's the reason behind it, I think for me, it may be Dad, but the true reason behind Dad is, as the book says here, desire, attitude and decision. And some of the principles that we are talking about in this book stems from the work of Napoleon Hill. And I was inspired by this book a few years ago after my time meeting Professor Clayton Christensen in Harvard, and where Clay sort of posed a question, it changed my life. He said, Selva, you really need to understand the laws of nature. I mean, we are all looking at the man-made laws, and we must respect the man-made laws, whichever the country that we belong to. And for us is United Kingdom, and we must respect that. But there is more to it on the laws. And he said there's something called natural laws. You can choose to ignore it. And he said lots of people ignore it, not because they want to ignore, because they do that because of ignorance, not knowing those laws. And if you get that right, you can achieve whatever you want. And I thought, wow, that sounds very interesting. And he said, is it really true? And that's where the whole journey started. And I'm ever so grateful for Clay. So that's the sort of the background of it. And as the book says, it is a combination of sort of past memoirs, self-reflection, and a lot of science and psychology, neuroscience and theory behind it. So I'm just bringing some humor talking about Dad, but this is a hugely valuable piece of research I would really like to give to the world and to everybody to try and understand and learn together. I'm not at all an expert on this. All I've done is I've put these things together in a logical manner, I believe, and but love to sort of work with you in the future. And that's all I got to say, Simon, as a starting.
It's a great honour to be here and to contribute to the launch of Selva's wonderful book. And I think when you look at Selva's story, it really has the ups and downs that all of us have in our lives, but perhaps in an even more dramatic way. He grew up in a middle-class family in Sri Lanka, a very loving and supportive family. His life was all set, and then he had the Civil War. He lost absolutely everything, and his family had to flee Sri Lanka for their own safety, and he arrived in the UK without a penny to his name. But Selva set up a business from scratch, turned it into a hugely successful multi-million-pound operation, and at the same time as doing that, built a very strong family with that bond with Darshini all around him. And then, as he was doing that, had to deal with the great sadness of losing his father in a very tragic accident. And I think when you look at all those ups and downs, what you see with Selva and what this book talks about is the power of education and learning, and what some people have called having a growth mindset, that idea that learning doesn't stop when you leave school when you're 18. It's something that continues throughout your whole life. And I think the Regent Group is a great example of that philosophy in action. Selva always tells his students that the purpose of education is not to get rich or to pass exams, but the building of character.
And talking of chapters, we're now going to ask Selva to talk about his favourite one in the book and why it's his favourite one, and tell us a little bit more about it.
The chapter 5 came into my mind, and obviously, given the desire and the attitude and the decisions, they are all absolutely essential to whatever we wanted to achieve. I mean, desire is absolutely key, because we need to have that burning desire to do whatever that we wanted to do. Whether it could be a business, whether it could be a family, it could be politics, it could be anything, that once you set that burning desire, the laws of nature will get it. As long as the research again says, as long as you're doing certain things in a certain way every day.
Our next speaker is Dr. Maurizio Bragani, a great friend of us all, who I know was very helpful in giving you some comments and views on the book as you were putting it together. And Maurizio is just going to give a few words about learning from the past.
Our own history and our own experience, we are the fruit of the education that we have received from our own parents. And in reading the book, Selva, I have to thank you, because you have remind me an old sentence of Cicero, one of my favorite writer, and it's a Roman one. Cicero said, everyone knows only that history is magistra vitae, but Cicero in reality said a very long piece, that is, history est testi temporum lux veritatis vita memoria magistra vitae nuntia vetus statis. So the history is also the one that is announcing the time and the future. And the learning from the past, as you have described, or learning from that is what you have put in your book, is this a journey that every one of us can do it in his own past, in his own relationship with the Father, and to keep what are the elements that are really build our character and behavior.
We had a few questions that have come in from people directly who want to get your view on things, Selva. So the first one was from Anshul Gupta, and he says, what advice would you give to aspiring authors?
I think go with the passion. I think it's all about the passion, and I think if you that, and there's the saying that there is a book in everyone, they say. So all of us in this call can write a book, but write a book where your passion is, because then the words will come. You will attach your emotions to it, and it'll be your work, and then you'll enjoy it.
Another very wise friend of yours, Professor George Holmes, who's the Vice Chancellor of Bolton University.
It's more when you read about Selva's work, and it is humbling to see how Selva works, because his attitude to life is about helping others. His attitude to life is about doing it for others rather than doing it for himself, and that then determines how people respond and how the world responds to him.
But my question really was, what would you say to young people who still have their father, that they should be asking them today?
Thank you, Ronald, for that question. I remember Dad saying this once, you can only give what you got. So for those parents or those fathers, what they are sharing with their children at the time, based on their awareness and their understanding of laws of nature. I'm not saying ignorance comes from the word ignore. They have ignored some of these laws of nature because of their environment or what they have learned. But what he said, don't accept everything I say, but please consider it. Don't reject it. And I say that perhaps that's what we'll have to think about. So we'll have to consider it. If then that piece of advice aligns with my alignment to, or the young person you're talking about, align to them, then take it forward. Because they are your parents, doesn't mean they know everything for you, because you are an individual. You are the only person in this world who you are. Nobody else can repeat that. So I think perhaps that's what we need to see. And the book talks about that and makes you, you are a unique person. Respect, consider it. But if it's not right, reject it too. I think my life changed when I left in 1990. I'm talking about it was a emotional change for me when we left Sri Lanka. As Jeremy said, my parents gave me everything. It was one of the best lives I had. And as you know, rather in my final A-levels, I enjoyed too much. And my daughters tells me that the fall of A-levels is not because of the war. The fall of A-levels is I enjoyed too much and doing whatever I did. So therefore, I think coming to the United Kingdom, that was the best thing ever happened in my life. And as I said, this country adopted me. And then for me, I'm always proud to say I'm a British, and it's in every cell of my body now. And that's my emotions. And I'm not going to say anything bad about my country I was born in. I'm grateful I was born there. But I think my adopted country is everything for me. And my adopted country gave me everything for 30 years. And I came and I started my life as a cleaner in a mental hospital. And this country gave me everything. And if I talk about gratitude, if I don't have that gratitude, then I'll be a true hypocrite of writing and not feeling. So therefore, I learned a lot from Dad, and Dad joined, as you know, in 1994. He didn't want to leave because he didn't want to leave his mother. He was very close to his mother, and he said he's not going to leave her in the midst of war. And I vividly remember Grandma telling him, and that's why he left in 1994. He wouldn't have left otherwise. He said, "You have lived for me and our family." He lived for their family, and I must say, proudly. But now you've got to live for your son and his wife and your wife. And that one word he said, all right then, book the ticket. And then he left everything and he came, and he never looked back. And he's a great patriot of United Kingdom as well. He studied under the British, and we all are. So that's what I'll say rather, but I have got my roots back. I want to unite Sri Lanka, the Tamils and the Sinhalese. We are doing that, and I think the three prime ministers in this country have supported us. It started with David Cameron, who has been so supportive. And I cannot thank more to Theresa May. And every year she gives our personal message, and she has been so supportive to me and Darshini to bring that unity. And I'm sure Boris will do the same, and any future prime ministers, I'm sure will do the same, and whoever listening. And that's all I'll say. I hope I have answered the question. But thank you for coming on board. But I will do my part to where I was born in Sri Lanka. I will do the part, but I'll do my part in unity. I don't agree the way that we have divided our country, and therefore I'll do my part as a proud British with a Sri Lankan heritage.
So I'm just going to wrap up by just saying what, so many people have said to me, what a great honor it is to be involved in this today, and to thank our speakers who have given so many thought-provoking things for us to consider. And Selva, for the book and for your contribution to life in the UK, which is very inspiring and brings us all to a point where we think, well, there must be more we can do in life. And I think that's the inspiration is about, what more can we do?